we have Mr. Kevin Good. He's a senior research engineer from Battelle in Columbus, one of our performers. And then we also have Mr. Cliff Deutsch from Command Canine. So Kevin will speak first a little bit. We'll hand it over to Cliff. They're going to talk about our state and local outreach that we're working a couple of the efforts. But Kevin, as we say, we've got the scientist, engineer, test and evaluation, and then we've got Cliff is one of our stakeholders and provides a good grounding for us, because what we feel is unique with this program is we match the scientists, the engineers, the smart folks, and embed and really match our subject matter experts with that. Because if we're not doing something that isn't beneficial to the guys at the other end of the leash, then it's science for science sake. So that's where we have a unique melding of this within this program. And so I think some of the things about our state and local outreach, and we know that you guys have some of your own outreach with state and locals. So we want to hear that. We want to create more partnerships. But let's jump in, and I'll introduce Mr. Kevin Good to start us.
Thanks, Don. Good morning. Again, I'm Kevin Good from Battelle, and I'm going to be joined up here in a few minutes by my friend Cliff Deutsch of Command Canine. We are contractors to DHS S&T. We've been aiding them with their state and local outreach, and that's what we've been invited to talk about here today. So I think that given this audience, we can agree that the Detection Canine is a demonstrated effective resource, right? However, I also believe that there are a lot of state and local teams out there that don't have an extensive support network. They don't always have access to the latest tools, techniques, and knowledge. And so, as a result, in 2017, Don, Cliff, and I, and a small group of other providers started to roll out these regionally based events. I say regionally based because we go out to the canine teams. So these regionally based events for state and local law enforcement canine teams, where we're working to share some of that latest and greatest information and knowledge with them. We're looking to put them through their paces, through some testing, but then most importantly, we're there because we want to work with them, engage them, and understand their needs. And so the program is referred to as READY, which stands for the Regional Explosive Detection Dog Initiative. We've got a number of objectives for READY, and a couple of those are listed here. As I said on the first slide, again, we want to establish relationships with our state and local canine teams in order to understand their needs, in order to understand their challenges. While we're there, we want to take the opportunity to share some knowledge and ideas with the canine handlers that may allow them to do their job either safer or better. Continuing that theme, we hope that the event ultimately allows them to make small improvements in their capabilities, to improve their tactics or improve their awareness of the situation. And then finally, we're there to gather data that can be used for the betterment of the community. And so let me expand on that. We're trying to gather that data, not just from one dog team or from one location, right? We want to test in South Florida, but I want to do a test out on the West Coast and the East Coast and in the Midwest as well. We want to pull together that aggregate data in order to inform future federal investments to best serve these men and women. Okay, so each READY event for our participating canine handlers is a two-day engagement. And we've got a number of different components to each of those events. One is classroom instruction. So for example, my explosive chemist comes and he gives a lecture. And no, he doesn't give detailed chemistry lecture, right? That's not useful. But what he does give is practical information that will allow these men and women to do their job, again, either safer or better. So an example would be making sure that they are comfortable in identifying and being aware of the precursors that are associated with common or popular homemade explosives, right? There's information available at a scene sometimes where the handler might not even need to get the dog out of the truck, and we want them to be aware of that and to be able to react to that. So we have some useful information sharing. We also do odor recognition trials, and we have a picture here on the left-hand side of a dog team doing our odor recognition trials. And this is a series of scent lineups where the handler, who's blind to the problem, he does not know where we've hidden any of the targets. He and his dog, his canine partner, are attempting to identify the location of any hidden target materials in a sea of distracting odors. We also conduct a number of operational scenarios. So those target materials that are in that simple odor recognition trial, well, they are at different times put into an operational scenario. And we put a lot of emphasis on realism. So we want to use a relevant target material. We want that target material configured or packaged realistically, and we want it being used in a viable setting. Next, there's a results sharing element to the event. So about halfway through the second day, if I'm a canine team participating in this event, I get a handout, and it shows me all the target materials that were present in the odor recognition trial and how my dog and I did against those different materials. And additionally, on that same page, we show the details for the operational searches. So what target materials were out there, where were they hidden, how were they configured, and how did we as a team do on those targets. After that result sharing, there's an opportunity for some training. And so again, if I'm a canine participant, if I'm a handler in this event, and I get my results back, and let's say there's a material in there, ABC, that I'm not happy with, I thought we should have been better on it, well, that material is available for some short imprinting session. And we're not claiming that we're going to be able to resolve any and all deficiencies in a short training session, but we can start taking those first steps together. And then finally, the handlers that participate all complete for us a pretty in-depth questionnaire where we're trying to gather information on their day-to-day practices and their certification. So what materials are they training on? How often are they training on those materials? How are those materials stored? How are those materials handled? What are the certification like? So trying to gain additional insights to the day-to-day activities of these canine teams. Okay, so to date, we have completed 15 of these events. And as soon as this event is over, Cliff and I are hopping on a plane and heading to Fort Worth, Texas, because we've got number 16 happening this week. But through those 15 events that we've completed, we've had access or involved over 200 participants. Those participants have spanned 85 different departments, and we've amassed over 5,000 blind target exposures between the odor recognition trials and all of the operational scenarios. We have over 5,000 data points on targets alone. Now, in an open forum, I can only share, some of our findings, and even then at a high level. But here they are. I've been serving this community for a long time, and I think it has a reputation of being closed-minded. But we haven't seen that. The handlers that we're dealing with that are participating in this have been really open and eager for challenging and progressive training and testing scenarios. Right? They want to challenge their dog. They want to challenge themselves because they want to do better. And so we've encountered a lot of men and women that are very open to new ideas and to pushing the limits. And so that's the first finding there, that the community, I think, is eager for information and for progressive and challenging training concepts and problems. Unfortunately, our routine training doesn't always reflect real-world problems, right? These hide or these scenarios that are easy and convenient to set up because we need to get a fine quickly, that doesn't always translate into the level of capability that we need. Detection performance does vary by target material. There are some of these materials that are more difficult than others, meaning that some of these materials, teams need to spend more time. They need to recognize that, respect that, and spend more time, spend more effort, making sure that their dog is good on that material. Next, I think that the community in general would benefit from an increased emphasis on detection threshold. Raising that threshold so they recognize large amounts or very odorous hides, but definitely also lowering that threshold too, so that if we have an intelligent adversary who's packaging things carefully, trying to conceal that, trying to lower that signature, that our dogs react to that strongly still. And then finally, after the 15 events, no city, no locale is outperforming or underperforming the others. We have certainly encountered some innovative training tactics that some departments are using, and then we're sharing that with the subsequent events. Okay, so now that we've conducted 15 of these events and we've amassed a little bit of a data set, again, the key was no knee-jerk reaction based off of a single team or a single location. Let's get a quality data set here and look for real trends. But now that we're starting to get that sizable data set, we want to move to sharing that aggregated knowledge and data set with the law enforcement community. So we're exploring avenues, and future ready events might be one of those avenues, but exploring avenues to disseminate the information to the state and local authorities. Again, now that we've got a larger data set, we can start doing some statistical analysis to inform those future investments. So what should the federal government be investing in order to best serve these men and women? And then we're also continuing with the Ready events. We want to incorporate feedback that we get from each event. You know, we want to take away things that maybe could have made that event better or more relevant, so we do adjust to handler feedback when appropriate. We want to continue our educational efforts. I mentioned that I have my chemist that gives a lecture. I also give a lecture. I have some examples with me of a leave behind booklet that we're going to leave with the handlers so they hear my briefing, and then they get a booklet that kind of parallels that. And so if they're not able to absorb all that information in the 90 minutes they're sitting in front of me, they got that quick reference booklet with them at all times. By continuing the Ready events, we hope to gain more diversity in the data set, right? The more teams we get, the better snapshot of the entire community that we're going to get. And then we always have the option of phasing in new target materials and variations of those target materials as we try to gain additional insight on how to best serve this community. And with that, actually, that's all my slides, and I want to turn it over to Cliff so he can speak from an operator's perspective.
Good morning. My name is Cliff Deutsch. I'm a retired Special Operations Canine Sergeant from a large agency in Southwest Florida. My background mainly is highway drug interdiction, even though I went through patrol, tracking, apprehension school. Obviously working in South Florida, you can imagine, with two main corridors, we're very busy on that aspect of the canine detection teams. Throughout my years, I was responsible for regional training. We're a very large agency, so we supported highway patrol and other state and local canine units. During that time, I realized the challenges that we're facing. And drug dogs, we're proven every day. You know, we're stopping cars, we're seizing contraband, we're going to Federal Express, UPS, other delivery services. But where the gap was, I saw, was the explosive community. And starting my canine career in 1991 or 1992, as we evolved, I saw further and further problems with explosive detections. Move forward 25 years, I bumped into Mr. Roberts, I think it was Miami, South Florida somewhere, and I saw what he had. And I saw the expertise he had from a chemistry, from a science, from an engineering standpoint, something that we don't have in the law enforcement community. We just don't have those resources available to us. And I started talking to Mr. Roberts, and I'm like, sir, with all due respect, we need help. And we, as canine operators, canine trainers, and canine managers, have to take a step back and realize when we need help. We travel around the country, we go around the world, and we see rock star teams in our own little world. When we come in from a third-party standpoint with the Operation Ready event, teams struggle, and they're challenged. Because we push them beyond that training venue that they're used to doing. And I was at fault for that. As I learned to deal with the cartel family in South Florida, from California or Texas, in order to succeed, we have to fail. And in our community, we struggle with that. There's nothing wrong with that. We're very protective of our teams. We're very protective of our dogs. We're very protective of our handlers. I get it. But we're doing a disservice. Through Don's program, through Operation Ready event, we challenge the participants, but we also provide corrective measures if they need it. We have a chemist. We have several chemists on staff that, obviously I'm not a chemist, amazing. In 10 years that I've worked in Don's program, it's helped me understand why my dog can do what they do, why they can't do what they do. The engineers, from a science side as well, and now working with the genetics and genomics, it gives us a better understanding to better serve our community. The criminal element is evolving every day. We have to take that one step further and evolve our own community. We have to challenge ourselves, challenge our dogs. We can't do simple hides. We have to do threat-based hides. And what we've seen in this Ready event, the teams are very good at what they do when in a controlled environment. When we bring in that criminal element, we put a threat device out, made from the same composition of a training aid, teams are struggling out there. That's not good. It's not good for our families, our loved ones, or our community. So with Don's support and Don's supporting expertise from a chemist and a science and an engineer standpoint, we're helping state and local law enforcement. There's other programs out there, like Mr. Roberts said, but we feel that we're listening to the end user. It's not me, Cliff Deutsch, going to California and saying, hey, this is how you have to do things. We're listening to their gaps, their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. We're putting our expertise together, either from a chemist standpoint or a science, or from a canine standpoint, and we're helping them. We're helping them beat these gaps, these vulnerabilities. Because at the end of the two-day event, Operation Ready event, the teams do progress and they get better. It's with that chemistry and that science side that we don't have, again, from a law enforcement standpoint. And like Mr. Good said, we're in 16, 17 cities now, or regions of the country. We need to expand that presence because there's a lot of agencies, the onesies, the twosies. You know, I come from a large agency, and there's a lot more other bigger agencies out there. But the boots on the ground don't have the resources we have. And that's where I see the S&T being that federal focal point that's needed out there. With that being said, we have to know who the end user, our customer is. And I'm kind of put in situations sometimes that are challenging. The chemist, we have to make it understandable for guys like me. Hey, I went to school 4 years, did a criminal justice degree, but I'm not a chemist. And we are so challenged in the law enforcement community, in the vendor community, because we're doing more with less nowadays. So to have the support from an S&T, from a chemist and a scientist who are very passionate, and that's how I look at operators. We're very passionate for what we do. Some people might say we have anger management issues. No, it's a 24/7 job. You can't, your dog doesn't go, it's your responsibility. You're on a 24-hour-a-day call. So we're tired, we're overworked, and with the support of S&T, we're able to beat the criminal element because they have all day long to build these hides and build these threat devices. We have seconds. We have to respond in a second to a threat. And we have to make a decision from an operator standpoint. Are we going to shut this terminal down? Are we going to evacuate a large crowd gathering, a sporting event, because of our dog's indication of presence of explosives? That's a lot of responsibility on a male or female out there handling a dog. Murphy's Law has it, you might get a hit your first day out, right out of class. That's happened before. So you have to have that confidence level, and you have to have credibility and reliability. With S&T support from the chemist and the science side, we give that to the law enforcement community. They don't have it. So I think it's important that we build our program bigger than we are. I think we need your help and your input doing it, but you have to come off of this, we don't have any gaps and weaknesses. We do. I'm telling you we do. Because the criminal elements out there, they have, again, weeks and months to develop something, years, and we have seconds and minutes to stop that threat. So with that being said, I really want to, you know, I'm humbled. I know a lot of faces in the crowd, wealth of experience out there. Working with S&T and having the opportunity that Mr. Roberts has given me has made me better understand how I can serve our community. And when we go to these ready events, when I talk to the handlers off to the side and they're not doing as well as they're used to doing, they're asking why. I said, because you're training for your evaluation standards. If you train for operational needs, for what that bad guy, that criminal element's going to do, your evaluation is going to be very simple. Your certification is going to be simple. And that's where the Ready event, we're operationally based. We don't just put out normal training aids. We take that device and we put it where the criminal element's going to do. And I think that's the value added that S&T gives to the community, whether you're federal, you're state, local, whoever. It's a very unique team. It's a very passionate team. And I know personally, working with each and every one of the forms of expertise that Mr. Roberts has, we do work very long hours, and we do take these ready events very serious. With Mr. Good's team out there developing the threats, and us from a canine standpoint, when our brothers and sisters are struggling, what are we going to do? How are we going to help them? And that's where Mr. Roberts gives us the leniency to do that. So I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. I'd love to hear from the operators, the trainers, the program managers out there, what we can do to support you from a canine side of it. And then I can try to convey that to the chemistry and the science side of it, which is at times a little challenging. I will be honest with you there. And Mr. Roberts very patient from my standpoint, to say the least. But we need your input. We have the resources to do it. Let's do it. Because again, the bad guy's evolving. We need to evolve with it. So with that, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And stay safe. Thank you.